Greetings, friends and fellow cigar box guitar enthusiasts. Dale Puckett here in part 2 of the Resonator build. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll put the link up here, part 1. Hey guys. Yeah, because if you watch part 1, part 2 will make a lot more sense. In part 1, we talked about the shelves and all the troughs and trenches. And we looked at where it was going to be in position to where the Piezo is going to be and the pickup and all that stuff. So anyhow, in this video here, we are going to install the frets with my new fret hammer. Do as much electronics as I can, and then also install the tuners. So let's get started. Next, we are going to take away all these little pop-outs, little fret spikes, because they are deadly. If you play like that with these things sticking out, man, your fingers will be bloody. So let's go ahead and take off these fret ends. Now, normally what I like to do is take the grinder, take off these fret ends. But in order to do that, I get a sheet of white paper and I put it underneath the wheel, so that when I'm looking down on it, then I can see the contrast between the wheel and the paper. So that way, when I get this guy up here, I can see exactly how much I need to take off. And for the record, I am using these medium frets for the wire, the normal fret wire, and then I use a jumbo here at the 0 fret. This fret's like twice as large. It's that guy. It's probably too small to read, but it says Fret Guru. This is an interesting file. It's square, the tip is square. And every other side is, like the top side is smooth, and then there's teeth. Then it goes smooth again, and teeth. So what you can do with this thing here is you put the smooth side on the wood, and then the teeth side are on the fret. And then what I do with one motion, I just go up and over. So I've done half the fret there. I do this for every fret. Same motion. And I got my finger here to kind of guard against slipping. And all this does is just takes off the edge, the sharp little edge, kind of makes it dull. And I recommend doing them like that, doing the same motion over and over and over and over and over and over again for every fret. You don't want to stay on one fret, file it, and go to the next one and then file it. If you do that, then all the frets will be different, because there's no way that you can do the same exact for each fret. You might try, but This way is the best. This way you just do the same motion over and over and over and over for each fret. So now that I've done this side on each of the frets, now I'm going to do the same side on the bottom side. And it's the same thing, just put the smooth side down on the wood, right up next to the fret, and then just with one motion up and over. Oh, that one I missed. And you can actually see just by looking down, of course, for this detail work, I absolutely need my reading glasses. And I like this 220 grit sandpaper for getting these ends nice and smooth. Just fold it over a couple times. And I find that 220 gives it the perfect balance between getting the wood and the metal. If you get too heavy of a sandpaper, it'll take off too much wood, not enough metal. And if you get too high of a grit of sandpaper, then basically nothing happens. Just polishes up. Yeah, now this gives it like a really nice smooth finish. Yeah, and you can feel it too. It's just like smooth, smooth, smooth. That's the way I like to do my frets. All right, so now I want to get the exact string spacing. So I got my ruler that's down to the 30 seconds here. And it's also got centimeters and whatnot. So I went with the inches. And I opted for, I don't know if you'll be able to see it really. I mean, this neck here is right at about 1.5 inches. So I do 1/8 of an inch and then 3/8, 3/8, 3/8, and then 1/8. That's basically the ballpark. There's a little bit of wiggle room in there to adjust. And then I usually mark it off with pencil just to kind of make sure that it's balanced and centered and all that stuff. It might take me a few tries to get it exactly perfectly right. And you don't want to make a mistake here, because once you well, it doesn't matter. I mean, you don't want to make a mistake anywhere, but I mean, this is one of those places where if you file the groove in the wrong place, then you have an extra groove on your 0 fret. So take your time. I opted for this clear, transparent bullseye shellac. And the instructions say, do a thin coat, let it dry for an hour, and then sand it. Another thin coat, let it dry for an hour and sand it. Another thin coat, dry for an hour and sand it. So we're going to be doing a lot of drying and sanding and thin coating and drying and sanding, etc. We've been busy. Remember how I said I was going to leave that sticker on there? Well, it just so happens it says made in the USA in between those two tuners. I couldn't have planned that. So we did opt for the solder burns for the position markers on the top, and then also some gold linoleum nails. After a few coats of the shellac, I just hit it with the steel wool. And man, it's both slippery, smooth, and shiny. And you remember this piece here that we cut off for the back angle? Okay, well, I saved that. I usually save this. This came in handy for 2 reasons. Number one, you can see that I use it to stir the shellac, number one. And number two, see how it's tapered? It's thick here and skinny here. It's like a little shim. And what I've decided, or what I determined here, is that I need a little shim underneath here for the thing to and this is how you can tell is you put the body in, the neck in the body, and then here you lift up and you can hear it bang. Listen, I'm going up and down inside here, so this thing is flopping up and down. Well, I want it to be on the top side, which means I need to put a shim on the bottom side. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm going to do here, is I've figured out exactly the thickness of shim that I need, and I'll put it right underneath here so that this connects to the bottom of the top. Does that make sense? Of course it makes sense! Install the piezo, and again what I did is I took one of these bits, drilled a hole, put the piezo in there, and then filled it with hot glue. Actually filled it with hot glue, then put the piezo, and then filled it with more hot glue. Then I put a paper towel over it so that it would be at the right height. So when I smashed this guy in, while the hot glue was still hot, and it created a little groove right underneath this lid. And it's actually perfect little groove right in here. And so I get the support, like I said, of the wood and the downward pressure of the tin can, of the can top resonator, directly onto that piezo. And that lets the top of the resonator free float, if you want to call it free float. All right, we're getting down to the wire, literally. So I have two potentiometers here, and what I think I'm going to go with is the master control volume wiring scheme. I will put a video link to that up here. Basically all that is that each pickup gets its own volume control, and due to impedance reasons, the piezo, normally it's the piezo that like if I hook this one to the piezo, you'd have to open it a little bit, and then that would cause them both to be open, and then you could balance single coil to piezo and get kind of different ratios and stuff like that. It's better than a switch. You kind of get the best of both worlds by having them both on, but then you can also blend them by turning the volume up or down for each pickup. So it's actually a really cool configuration. So next we will solder it up, and then string it up, and then tune it up, and then tear it up. I almost forgot to show you the insides before I buttoned it up. So both the magnetic single coil and the piezo both have their own volume controls. All the grounds are tied together. This guy here goes to this potentiometer, and this one here goes to this potentiometer. And both of the outputs go to the jack. So pretty simple equation and very effective. How does this sound? I found these BANJO strings, and it has the gauges here on the back. And I tried my best to tune it to traditional banjo tuning, but before we get too carried away, I want to cut these things off so I don't poke my eye out. And of course I got the dull clippers. Much better. Oh, and remember, Both of these are master control volumes. So we got the Roland, or not the Roland, the Vox Mini. And I'm gonna go and turn this guy up so that so you can hear it when it's. So here, this one here is the Piezo. And you can see it kills it, but it's still pretty loud acoustically. My gosh. Hey, dog's chewing up the So that's the Piezo, and here is the. This is the magnetic. So I like them both on. Turn down some of the distortion. Let me get a clean sound here. All right, so both of them are full blast. Very interesting. Oh my gosh. All right, guys, that concludes this video. Build number 404. Cheers, guys. Hope you liked the video. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, notify, all that good stuff. Don't forget my Patreon. And guys, we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.